Hello YouTube, it's Hank here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are doing another manga review. Today we are going to be reviewing Dr.Stone Reboot Byakuya. Long ass title, it's a single volume, it's a one shot, it's 9 chapters long. And the author and illustrator here is Boichi. The publisher here is Viz, obviously. Shonen Jump releases it, and Viz is the company that releases Shonen Jump titles here in English. The demographic is obviously shonen, and the genres here are sci-fi, and specifically just sci-fi. There really isn't a post-apocalyptic element just yet, because it happens right when Dr. Stone begins. And as far as I know, this hasn't been adapted into the anime. I'm not exactly sure, because there's some debate about whether this is canon or not. So let's talk about that really quickly. Also, I do apologize for this coming out on Thursday and not Wednesday. I just could not record on Tuesday because Tuesdays are my busiest day at school, so I didn't have time to do it beforehand. But yeah, so this is definitely not a canon story as far as I can tell, because it has like elements that really don't fit in with what the story is about. It also is like way more whimsical and kind of like less scientific than Dr. Stone. And don't get me wrong, Dr. Stone is really not the most scientifically accurate thing ever, but it is kind of like more rooted in real science, whereas this is more kind of just like science, esque kind of stuff, not really exact science. So I would definitely say it's non-canon because of that, but also there's been people online that say that Richiro Inagaki, I think is his name, the mangaka, the writer of the story, said that it's not canon. But I mean, it is a little bit confusing because Boichi worked on both. So is it like canon because he's one of the people that was involved in the story process or not, right? But it's best to just think of it as not canon because it doesn't really affect the story too much. It kind of just provides an interesting kind of look at what could have been or what kind of was. And the right time to read this is after you read chapter 45, because that's when the original Dr. Stone gives you the information necessary for you to understand what's happening here, and this doesn't spoil anything about what happens in Dr. Stone. You could probably wait and read it later, but I think if you read it right after chapter 45, you're going to be most invested in the story, because that's when you kind of finish learning about Byakuya and how he wanted to work with Senku. So, yeah. Now, let's get into the premise here. It's basically a non-canon retelling of what happened to Byakuya and his fellow astronauts and Ray the robot. Now, I can't remember if Ray the robot was introduced at the beginning of Dr. Stone or not. I'm not too sure. That might actually also be a part or a reason why it's not canon, because it changes the events of the original story. But we basically deal with this robot most of the time. Most of the chapters actually deal with her, or it, I guess. Not necessarily Byakuya specifically, but it is pretty interesting. It is pretty cute, and we just kind of see how Byakuya and the other astronauts land on Ishigami Village and then create it, and then we get to see Ray the robot stay up in the sky in the spaceship. So cool. The plotline here is quite good. It dramatizes the realization of the Stone event, the way it happened, in a way that is kind of a little bit more cinematic feeling than it is in Dr. Stone. And then it kind of goes over Byakuya and his fellow astronauts planning to get to Earth and how to kind of figure it out. And there is some certain like scientific elements, but a lot of what is kind of talked about is relatively based on luck more than anything, which I guess is part of science. But it's more about like them just getting lucky than it is more about the hard calculations of them doing their work. But there is kind of a lot of interesting stuff about how spaceships work. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. And then they kind of go over and establish, what would become Ishigami Village. And we also get details of this Wall-E-esque story, like Wall-E the Pixar robot, through the story of Ray the supercomputer robot thing, AI. Very similar to what we get to see in Origin. So it is pretty kind of tied together with his other works. So it's pretty interesting. And with Boichi's other works, not Inagaki's. The characters here are pretty good. Byakuya is basically the main character, and then Ray is the main secondary character, who then becomes more important in the later chapters. There's quite a few different characters that are interesting. The most interesting one to me is Yakov, who is the Russian guy, and he's kind of like Kaseki's ancestor. Kaseki is the guy that does all of the manufacturing for Senku's Kingdom of Science. And they have the same thing where, like, when they get pumped, their clothes come off and they get like super swole. It's very funny. I really liked it. And then we get some other kind of interesting characters. We get to see that really young scientist guy. I can't remember his name, but he was kind of very much like not into Byakuya. And then we get to see, of course, the nice singer lady. I can't remember her name either. She actually becomes a little bit more relevant to the story in Dr. Stone later on, which is pretty cool. But we get to see her interacting with Byakuya and kind of developing a relationship with him. And of course, the most interesting character here is Ray, the little AI robot thing, because she really is what the story is most about. So it's actually pretty good. I really like her a lot. She's very cute, and there was a lot of moments where it was like really sad, because it was kind of like, you know, that story about the dog that would go back to the train station every day to wait for its owner, but its owner had died, so it never got to got to get back with its owner. Ray kind of goes through this same kind of idea here, and it's very, very compelling and very cute, and also kind of very heartbreaking and bittersweet, because it's like very beautiful that the robot's really interested in its creator, but it's also very sad because it's like, damn, they're never gonna get to see each other. So I don't know, I thought it was really good. Ray's character development was really great. World building wise, really there's nothing special here, nothing really happens, but the whole situation with Ray in space is actually quite good. I really enjoyed how ingenious the little robot turned out to be, and how they kind of did their thing. I'm not gonna really spoil what they did, but it was very interesting, very fun. I liked how ingenious they were, and how they kind of used everything that was on the space station quite well. This isn't the best, but it did kind of provide a little bit of world building for, like, you know, the stuff that's out in outer space that we never really think about, because we basically have like this field of debris around the Earth, right? And kind of like different machines and stuff out there. So it's kind of interesting that we kind of never think about it, and it kind of becomes a little bit relevant to Ray the robot. So it's pretty good. Art as well is, as always, top tier. This is still a little bit more on the dumbed down side of Boichi's work, because it has to fit in with Dr. Stone, but it is high quality. But of course, if you really want to see Boichi's top level work, you should check out his other series like Sunken Rock and Origin. Origin, I think, is his newest one, so it's probably the best one by far. But Sunken Rock is really good as well. And yeah, it's lovely as always. There's a little bit of a fan service here. Tiny bit just with some of the female characters, more specifically just the singer lady, because she was really the kind of fan servicey character that was kind of around. So she's there, but it's very minimal. Just one or two panels here and there. But overall, the art and the fan service are great. Rating wise, 5 out of 5. This is a good little spin-off, a very fun kind of non-canon story that just kind of like fits into the universe well enough, and I think it's really good. It's really enjoyable. Just Ray's kind of whole thing was really good, but Byakuya's kind of interesting sacrifice and kind of love for his son was really good as well. Overall, I definitely recommend this title. I think it's very good. And other titles that are similar to this or that remind me of this are things like Wall-E, or the first episode of The 100, like the CW show about the people that live in space and then have to come back to Earth. The first episode deals with them kind of coming back to Earth in a spacecraft that doesn't really work that well, which is very similar to what happens in the early chapters of this story. And of course, Boichi's other works. And of course, Dr. Stone itself, right? So yeah, I think if you like Dr. Stone and you're interested to see more things, and maybe you don't want to read fan fiction or something like that, because, you know, some people have aversions to that, this is like basically an official fan fiction, so you should check this one out. It's pretty good. Yeah, that's all I got. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you guys think about this story. Is it canon? Is it not canon? Does it really matter if it's canon or not? You know, let me know down in the comments. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and see you guys later.